In fall of 1992, the second season of the Torkelsons began under a new name, a reboot, a redo, a redux, Almost Home, 1992. So if the Torkelsons had been science fiction, I'm sure there'd be all sorts of fan theories to explain the way that it was suddenly retconned in its second season. Two of the children suddenly and unceremoniously vanish. Dorothy Jane, the oldest daughter, had been very much the focus of the show. We saw things through her eyes. Her brother and sister, she had 4 younger siblings. The brother and sister closest to her in age suddenly just vanish. Mom has lost the house. She's not able to pay the mortgage. Boarder Hodges, who had stayed with them, is not even mentioned again. They moved to Seattle because Mom gets a job as a nanny for a wealthy guy who owns a children's catalog and his 2 children. It ends up being a little bit odd that you remove 2 children to add 2 children belonging to another guy. So you've added a full-time father figure and 2 kids rather than eliminating. So from a budget standpoint, it didn't really make sense. From a dynamic standpoint, maybe. It's pretty clear what they were trying to do. They were trying to abruptly change the formula because they were not doing well enough in the marketplace against competition. The downside of this is, as previously I reviewed on the Torkelsons, they lose the thing that makes them unique and special. It ends up feeling like you're living through a redo of Who's the Boss with a gender swap. They were a sitcom in their first season that was very much rooted in the family wholesomeness of the 80s, but moving towards the humor of the 90s. This was more of an attempt to firmly place it in the 90s, not like on a level with Married with Children or Roseanne by any means, but trying to update it away from its very folksy country roots in Pyramid Corners, Oklahoma, and bringing it to a larger city. And then the dynamic of, but because of the romantic tension and these things that between her and her new boss, who's a single father and she's a single mother and she's working for him and living in the home, and all of it just feels very much like Who's the Boss. And even in those moments where it's very funny, it kind of feels so inescapably unoriginal. Unlike the first season, I did not find myself laughing out loud nearly as often. And while they do continue a little bit of the whole Dorothy Jane setup for each episode from the Torkelsons, it's not every episode, and it's not always present. Her talking to the man in the moon, or her dramatic persona that she did such a good job of being she was the one that really made the Torkelsons as this world was moving around her, and the way that she had of being an angst-ridden teenager in a way that was funny and Shakespearean. And so you lose a lot, and it's really sort of incredible. It only made 13 episodes that I could find in the second season. Turning it into Almost Home clearly just didn't work. You end up with a lot of the standard cliches about the couple living together for professional, like I said, Who's the Boss? You have the bowling episode that every sitcom for 20 years did a bowling episode. You know, the girls working together and spraying each other, the slapstick humor, spraying each other with pop because of a boy. And I don't know. Like I said, even when it was funny, it wasn't as funny, I felt, as the Torkelsons, and it didn't feel as original or as engaging in that way as the Torkelsons had done. And this is probably a big reason why it tanked after 13 episodes. It had lost the core fans that it did have and failed. When you do this, you're trying to broaden your appeal and get attention and get more viewers and try not to lose many. And I feel like you only probably kept the diehard Torkelson fans who wanted to keep watching. There was nothing different or original enough about it to bring in a lot of new people, and you probably lost some of your more casual Torkelsons viewers. But what's incredible about it is this time period, and I mentioned the Torkelsons had all these guest stars that were big figures from before and after. And Almost Home, it literally, they add Jason Marsden, who's probably more famous for his vocal work, but he's been in everything over the years. And adding Brittany Murphy as the daughter of, as Molly, the daughter. Brittany Murphy, she'd been in some minor roles on TV shows and guest appearances and so forth, but she does a fabulous job, gone way too soon. It's so sad when we lost Brittany Murphy. But the guest stars on the show include no less than Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck playing a high school student because he's so young, it's still plausible. Ben Affleck is in it. And then we get Allison Hannigan actually as a girlfriend love interest for Jason Marsden's character right at the end of the series, the end of the season when it tanks and goes off the air. Amazing numbers of people, and a lot of other people too. Those are the ones that stand out to me because most of us didn't know who Allison Hannigan was until the American Pie movies, and then after Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that other stuff. She's been in a ton of stuff. And Ben Affleck is, my favorite Batman, though I'm not a huge Batman fan. I love the way he got the character of Batman. And to think that he was playing the older, matured Batman in the movies, and in this show he was a high school student. So when you've got all this talent there, all of these people and the actors that played the younger siblings, they've been in stuff since. There's just all of this talent there, and just somehow it doesn't make it. It doesn't make it because it's not different enough. It's not good enough. Something is really lacking. The Torkelsons was sort of an odd place to put people in this small town in Oklahoma, but the writing did such a good job of bringing together the humor and the over drama that Olivia Burnett portrayed so well. It had that niche that was both wholesome and funny, and not doing well enough, I guess. They modified it into Almost Home, and it just isn't there. And all the pieces are there to make something even better when you're looking at what Brittany Murphy will be capable of, what Marsden's capable of, what Allison Hannigan's capable of, and yet it just doesn't pan out, and it's not nearly as entertaining. So it's sad. If I wasn't such a sci-fi nerd, I'd be like, maybe we need to write some Torkelsons fan fiction out there. Maybe we need a multiverse. Forget Spider-Man and the ridiculous multiverse thing again and again and again in Marvel. Maybe we need a multiverse thing where they find, the Torkelsons that had 5 kids instead of just the 3 kids, and see how that works out. Anyway, overall I enjoyed it. It was worth watching, but it was not nearly as good as the first season. Probably not something that I'll intentionally watch again, whereas the Torkelsons, I might. But there we have it, Almost Home. They are still free and available at the same place. Just look them up on YouTube and you can watch them, and let me know if you vehemently disagree with me in the comments, or if you agree with me, whatever. And we will see you next time.
Settle down and you feel like you're almost